Oracle SQL and PL/SQL tools. There are various tools that are used to manage Oracle. We will look at a limited number of them. The first one is called SQL+. SQL+ is a generic tool which can be used through a graphical user interface and a command line interface through a DOS or a Unix shell. SQL+ can be used to execute all database administration commands such as Oracle physical layer commands such as changing table spaces, files, creating databases, altering tables, which are logical commands, and any SQL commands such as inserts, updates, deletes, or select statements. Configuring SQL+. We will go through a brief introduction on how to configure SQL+ in terms of both network connectivity with the Oracle database, either through a client, a web server, or directly on the Oracle database server. We will also look at formatting SQL+. Some formatting can be placed into the configuration of SQL+ to act as default. Formatting output in SQL+. Output can be formatted with a large number of SQL+ commands. Why would you want to format output? Output is formatted in order to create readable reports. We'll get into the details later. SQL+ Worksheet. SQL+ Worksheet is a version of SQL+ which is contained within a suite of applications called the Oracle Enterprise Manager. Oracle Enterprise Manager is written in Java. SQL+ Worksheet is a more appealing and usable graphical interface than SQL+. iSQL+. iSQL+ stands for Internet SQL+. iSQL+ is an output format in SQL+ which automatically converts the output of SQL+ into HTML. Therefore, the results of SQL+ commands are viewable in a browser format. Oracle Enterprise Manager. Oracle Enterprise Manager is a front-end graphical user interface database management and administration tool. Oracle Enterprise Manager is made up of a large number of sections and pieces. One of them is SQL+ Worksheet, which we've already discussed. There are also a large number of tools and facilities for administering and planning in the Oracle database, extra application plugins such as tuning applications, automated tuning, capacity planning, etc. What can I tell you about SQL+? Firstly, what we need to do is we need to connect SQL+ to your database, either through a network connection or on the same machine that your server is on. The connection between SQL+ and the Oracle database on the Oracle server consists of what's called a bequeath connection. In other words, it's direct from the server to the server. What I'm going to do is show you how to connect SQL+ to your Oracle database across a network. This is fairly simple. First of all, open an Explorer. Now what I've got on my machine is I have a client machine on 98 with the Oracle client installation, and I have a database server on another machine, a much smaller machine, and I need to set what's called the TNS connection. There are a number of ways of connecting from a client machine to an Oracle database using Oracle networking software called SQLnet. We won't get into that since that is not really within the scope of this course. All I want to show you is how to actually connect your database and your client machine. Within your Oracle installation directory, I have mine on drive C, Oracle, 092. This is my client installation, of course, network, admin. We're also going to assume that you have the listener set up correctly on the server. If you don't, talk to your administrator. There's a file in here called TNS names, which is the local naming method. All it does is converts a network name to an IP address and or a network address, much like any DNS service does. So open this file up, and what I have here is a single network name called NG server, which is the name of my database server across my network, and this is how I connect it. I connect it using a protocol, which is TCP, a host name, which in my case, because I'm using a hub without a fixed IP address, I have to place the IP address in here. Generally, the first thing to try if you cannot get your network connection to work between SQL+, your client Oracle machine, and your database server is to change the name of the host for the IP address. The default port is 1521. Another useful fact about your network connection between your client machine, SQL Plus, and the database. A very easy way to test the connection to make sure it functions is to use a utility part of Oracle called TNS ping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ping the service name of the database. I should get a response. There's my response. At this stage, that's all you really need to know about connecting your database. If you have problems, you'll have to read the manuals and find out how to connect it properly. So how do we run our SQL Plus tool? On a Windows 98 Oracle Personal installation, go to the Start button, click Programs, depending on how you've installed it, of course. This may vary. Oracle Home, Application Development, and SQL Plus. In my case, I have a username called concepts in my database, a schema. Its password is also concepts, and the name of my Oracle name or the name of my database is empty server. Click OK. There I connect to my database and then SQL Plus. What I'm going to do is just look at a couple of views. Let's say I want to see what tables I have in here. Select table name from user. I have table names. I have a table called ACT up here. Let's see what I had in the ACT table in terms of the structure. Describe ACT. There's the structure of my ACT table. Let's look at the contents of my ACT table. Select star, which is everything from ACT. Let's look at some more tables. Let's use the scroll bar and scroll back up and look at my list of tables. Let's say I want to look at all shows. So I'll select star from show. Lots of shows. Let's go and look at venues. Select star from venue. Now we have something interesting going on. Note how the information was wrapped. Some people like that, personally I don't. This gets us on to formatting. It will do something very simple right now. Set wrap off. Select the same table again, select star from venue. Looks a lot better. Formatting output in SQL Plus. What I've done is I've started up Oracle SQL Plus, the GUI version, and I've connected to my database in my concept schema. So I have select table name, these are the tables I have in my concept schema. What do we mean by formatting? For instance, when I typed in select star venue, I got basically what is an unreadable mess. What I did then is I set wrap off, which stops the wrapping of, for instance, the name of William Sarian Theatre at Fresno Convention Center, Fresno. It stops it wrapping from one line to the next. So I set wrap off, select star, venue again. Somewhere down here I find this record after a certain column width and screen width, it will not wrap to the next line. So it's a lot more readable, although I cannot see what's up to the right. Traditionally, or in the past, Oracle SQL Plus was used extensively for reporting. It's not used that much for reporting anymore. There are a lot of tools out there that look a lot better than SQL Plus in terms of providing button functionality within reports, drill down functionality, etc. However, for the purposes of writing SQL code and database administration, people like myself still use SQL Plus. Formatting output. If you type the command show all, it will show you all the settings that you can change in SQL Plus, either in your session or as a default configuration by changing the configuration file of SQL Plus. We don't need to get into the configuration for the purposes of this course. Let's see what all these commands are. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this list and describe what some of them, and describe what some of these commands do. The useful ones, that is, for our purposes. Let's take, for instance, line size. I can limit the size of the line. If I set line size, so if I set line size to say 20, which I wouldn't normally do, but I'm just showing you how this works. I'll select start from menu again. My wrapping is off, so I won't word wrap onto the next line. I have a very short line. Let's come back to show all. Let's go and find line size again. You can change the format of numbers. Change the width of numbers. You can change the page size. So what happens when we set my line size to something sensible, 32. What we are looking at is the page size. So when I select start, if you can see here, it's actually broken up into pages because it repeats the headings every however many lines that is. I think the default is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It gives me 11 lines, 10 lines. Well, actually, if you look at show all, you'll find that the default page size is actually 14. Let's change the page size to page size 5. Now we should actually repeat. Well, this doesn't really make sense, but we should be repeating. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus a blank line. Something sensible is, let's try page size 40. Select start from menu. I've probably got 40 lines in there. If we only wanted the header once, we know we've got 178 rows. We can set page size 180 and select menu again. You'd obviously only get, well, because we've got the heading there twice, because it counts the headings within the page size, obviously it would. So back to show all again. Let's go and find page size again, as if we can find anything else that is useful at this point. At present, I don't see anything other than perhaps set timing on. Every time you run a command, you actually get a time for completion elapsed. 0.07 seconds. That's useful for tuning. Other than that, what I generally use is I would set line size to 32, and I can set pages to 0 to turn the headers off altogether. As you can see, being a SQL code author, developer, and database administrator, I don't really use the formatting of SQL Plus all that much, other than to make it easier for me to read it on the screen. Back to my incredibly busy screen. Now what we're going to look at is a program called SQL Plus Worksheet. SQL Plus Worksheet is a version of SQL Plus embedded in the Oracle Enterprise Manager software. What I want to show you right now is how to actually run it from your menu. So we go down to Start, click Programs, and in here, within Application Development, you will find SQL Plus Worksheet. Click on it. Let's see what it looks like. You will be prompted for an Oracle Enterprise Manager login. I'm not connecting to an Oracle Management Server. I'm going to connect directly to the database. Once again, I'm going to connect concerts. Username concerts. My password is concerts. My service is NT server. I'm going to connect as normal. I could connect as sysdba or sysopera, but since I am not the database administrator, being concerts, I will connect as normal, and I'll click OK. I'm going to minimize this window because that's kind of irritating. This is SQL Plus Worksheet. Let's maximize it to get it all on the screen. The benefit to using SQL Plus Worksheet is that it divides the screen into two areas, into a command area such as set back off, allows me to type in multiple commands, and I can execute it. Exactly the same as SQL+, just a lot prettier. As you can see, a lot slower. SQL+ Worksheet is essentially a wrapper around the SQL+ technology. So it maintains a command history, and it contains all the functionality and command structure of SQL+. One interesting point to note is that any commands typed in the top window will all be executed. In other words, SQL+ allows you to execute command by command sequentially, where the previous command will not be re-executed. Executing these commands will simply select from venue and the act table rather than just the act table. We just did the venue selection. So let's take out venue select and execute the select from act. By looking at the command history, we can retrieve previous commands into the top window. So let's go to the next command, and we get the act selection. Also, we can clear the windows separately, so we can clear the bottom window by clicking on it and pressing clear all. Then we can click on the top window and clear the top window by pressing clear all. Click the help button. There is an enormous amount of information in the help navigator, the SQL+ worksheet. You can also skip between previous and next commands. You can even change your database connection, so let's go and connect a system. Now I'm connected to the system, so I could go and look at my command history, and I've connected to concerts. This is my select from venue. This is my select from act. And this is my connection to system. Another version of SQL+ is the tool called iSQL+, or Internet SQL+. iSQL+ is a browser-enabled version of SQL+. Effectively, what iSQL+ does is it converts the output from SQL+ into an HTML format. In other words, it's formatted for a browser. In order to run iSQL+, you need to have your HTTP service running on your database server, either on a database server across the network or on your local machine. You can start up the HTTP server either by starting up the service in the services tag on your server, or obviously starting up the HTTP server on your Unix database server machine, or you can also find it through the Oracle options on the menu. What we see here is the login screen for iSQL+. How we get to this is by typing HTTP plus the IP address. This is the IP address of my database server, and the name of the process called iSQL+. I'll hit return, and it comes up with the login window, which was obviously there already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log into concerts. I'm going to log into concerts on my database server, and I'll click login. This is the screen I'm shown, with an execute button, clear screen, and a save script button. I can also load scripts from my machine and execute them. All I'm going to do at this stage is to simply select start from venue and show you what it looks like. I click the execute button. What iSQL+ does is executes the SQL+ command against the database and converts it into an HTML format, which you can see here, with the columns venue ID, name, city, state and country, and all the data, all nicely organized into a very nice looking table field. iSQL+ is really for presentation over the web, and is very easy to use. Oracle Enterprise Manager What is Oracle Enterprise Manager? Oracle Enterprise Manager is a vastly complex and very comprehensive tool for managing Oracle Enterprise databases. How do we run Oracle Enterprise Manager? What I'm going to do here is to show you how to run the console. Enterprise Manager console under your Oracle menu tag on Windows 98 or NT Server. I'm going to launch it standalone, so I'm going to connect directly to my database. Let's maximize the windows so we get all the interesting stuff on the screen. I have two databases registered with my Oracle Enterprise Manager console. What I'm interested in is NT Server. And now I'm being prompted to connect to my NT Server database. So let me log in as my database administrator, which is sys, and I'll log in as sysdba. Now that I'm logged in, I can see I have all sorts of information instantly at my fingertips. Some DBAs like to use Oracle Enterprise Manager extensively, and others do not. Probably the more traditional DBAs will use Oracle Enterprise Manager for looking at logical database objects such as tables and indexes and compiling procedures, etc. Here we have schemas and all the logical objects inside that schema. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to view by schema, which should make it a little more familiar. Now I can look at my concepts tables, and we can see we have the act table, which we've already seen, and the venue table, which we've already seen. Listed on the right, I have all the details of the venue table. In other words, the venue ID, name, city, state, country, column names, plus the data types, plus the sizes of those fields, whether fields are nullable or not, any default values. I can also list out constraints. That's an alternate key, that's a primary key, storage parameters which can be changed. I have not changed those. Any options, statistics generation, and the way that constraints are stored. Generally, I've kept everything simple in the concepts schema because at this stage we're concentrating on SQL and PL/SQL. Most of the information inside Oracle Enterprise Manager, particularly in the Oracle Enterprise Manager console, is really applicable to database administration. There are extra packages which can be added on to Oracle Enterprise Manager. We'll get into that in a while. As far as SQL and PL/SQL are concerned, all we're really interested in is the logical side. In other words, the schemas themselves. As you can see, I have various schemas in this database. Assist and system schema are reserved by Oracle, and they contain generally the metadata for your database. Other areas which are really out of scope as far as SQL and PL/SQL are concerned is the instance information, security details. Although security is important to SQL and PL/SQL, we will get onto that later on. Here are my users, my concept user. Roles can be defined, and profiles. Storage is really database administration. Replication is another kettle of fish altogether. That's really what Oracle Enterprise Manager is. It's a management tool. You can use it to manage multiple databases across a network. This page shows you the quick tours for Oracle Enterprise Manager. I always find this a really good starting point for finding out exactly what Oracle Enterprise Manager is. As you can see, you have the console, Generally, the console allows access to all database objects. It also allows scheduling of jobs and execution of those jobs. Plus, it allows the event detection. The diagnostics pack allows a health check. The tuning pack attempts to automate tuning, although I would be very careful using automated tuning. Change management manages change. The standard management pack comes with the Oracle Standard Edition and has very basic Oracle Enterprise Manager package functionality. Two other packages, well out of scope. If you want to find out more about Oracle Enterprise Manager and you want to start using it, a very good place to start is the Quick Tours.